They thought she was fragile because of her wheelchair, but when they pulled her down on the pavement, they awoke a fire that had been quietly training for this very moment. It had only been 6 months since Maya Thompson returned to school in a wheelchair after the accident that changed everything. Cedar Ridge High, with its trophy-lined hallways and perfect cliques, wasn't built for someone like Hera Blackgirl from a different town navigating not just physical recovery, but also the social landmines of a predominantly white school. The stares she expected, the whispers too. But nothing prepared her for the cruelty of Logan Price and his 2 sidekicks, Brad and Chase. They didn't just laugh or mutter cruel jokes when they passed her in the hallway. They targeted her. One afternoon, in the school parking lot, they cornered her. Logan, the ringleader in his varsity jacket and smug grin, yanked her out of her chair and left her on the cold asphalt while he wheeled away laughing. Students watched. Phones came out. No one helped. What Logan didn't know, what none of them knew, was that before the accident, Maya had trained in martial arts since she could walk. Her father, a former military combat instructor, had taught her discipline control and, above all, patience. She had endured pain most people couldn't imagine. But humiliation, that was different. That sparked something deeper. And soon those boys were going to learn that this wasn't the end of Maya's fight. It was only the beginning. Maya Thompson rolled down the corridor of Cedar Ridge High with the quiet grace of someone who'd learned to measure every inch of her world. The polished floors beneath her wheels squeaked rhythmically, a sound she had come to associate with focus and survival. But nothing felt natural about her place here. 6 months ago, she had been sprinting across a gym mat or nailing a perfect roundhouse kick. Now she was navigating a school that seemed built to remind her she didn't quite fit. She'd memorized the locations of every ramp, every uneven tile, every hallway where the crowd thickened too much for a chair to pass easily. The day had begun like any other, dodging stairs, maneuvering past cliques that barely moved when she said, "Excuse me," and trying to disappear into the noise of high school. But Cedar Ridge didn't let you disappear not when you were different. And Maya's difference wasn't just her wheelchair. It was her strength wrapped in silence, the kind that unsettled people who didn't understand it. It was during a lull between classes that she overheard them again. Logan's voice echoed off the locker's loud, careless full of that smug charm only boys like him seemed to get away with. "You think she was born like that?" he sneered. Brad laughed. Maybe her dad was drunk driving or something. Maya's hands froze on her wheels, her breath catching just for a second. She didn't look at them. Didn't need to. Their voices carried their cruelty as clearly as any punch. She reached her locker fingers, working the combination with mechanical ease, but her body was tense. Behind her, Logan kept going. "Probably gets first pick on tests, best parking spot, might as well put her on the honor roll just for showing up in a chair." That line made Brad snicker, while Chase let out a low whistle, as if impressed by the level of disdain. Maya didn't say a word. Not yet. These weren't the typical teenage jabs. They were well-practiced microaggressions laced with entitlement and superiority, and always just under the threshold of what school administrators might label as harassment. Logan was smart like that, mean but careful. He wielded his words like a blade disguised as a joke. Even when Maya confronted them calmly, directly, he'd smile and say, "We were just messing around. You know, adjusting to the new dynamic." Only Zoe Miller, a transfer student from California, seemed to truly see through it all. They'd bonded on day 3, 2 outsiders in a world that didn't bend easily to difference. Zoe had her own sharp edge, her sarcasm serving as a shield for both of them. She spoke up when Maya couldn't roll her eyes loud enough for both of them, when Logan said something veiled in fake politeness. But despite Zoe's support, Maya carried the weight alone. She didn't tell her parents, not when they'd already rebuilt their lives around her injury. Her mother, Dr. Janine Thompson, had converted the garage into a full physical therapy setup. Her father, Michael, once a respected combat instructor, now worked long hours in security and spent every night spotting her as she trained building strength and balance on the parallel bars. She didn't want to add school drama to their endless sacrifices, and yet it festered. The comments, the deliberate obstruction in hallways, the snide remarks about diversity quotas and milking her disability. It wasn't just annoying, it was strategic, designed to isolate her, designed to make her feel less. That afternoon, as she sat in the garage with sweat dripping down her brow, Maya's mom praised her progress. "You're almost at 3 minutes of supported standing." Maya, jaw clenched, barely nodded. "I want 5, she muttered. "By next week." Janine looked at her with concern. "Sweetheart, that's a big jump. Pushing too hard could—" "I'm not pushing too hard," Maya cut in. "I'm pushing hard enough." Michael stepped in quietly, reading his daughter's posture like a battlefield. Something happened at school. Maya hesitated, her fingers tightening around the handrails. "Just the usual. Nothing I can't handle." But her father didn't accept vagueness. "Maya handling something doesn't mean handling it alone." She looked up at him, the fire finally surfacing behind her calm exterior. "Some fights are mine to fight. And I don't want backup, I want results." Michael nodded, slow and quiet. "Then fight smart," he said, "because they're counting on you to stay silent, to stay small." She didn't respond, but the next time she gripped the bars, she held herself up for 4 minutes straight. No breaks. No fear. And as she stared at her own reflection in the mirror-lined wall, Maya made a silent vow. This isn't just about healing anymore. It's about reclaiming power. And if they wanted a victim, they picked the wrong girl. It was a cloudy Thursday afternoon when everything changed. Maya Thompson had stayed late for debate club, a routine that brought her a quiet kind of joy. Arguing logic, building her case, using her voice. These were tools she still had full control over. By the time she and Zoe rolled out toward the parking lot, most of the cars were gone, the school eerily quiet under the gray sky. The air carried that kind of stillness right before a storm. Maya didn't feel it at first, but Zoe must have sensed it, her grip tightened on the handles of Maya's wheelchair. "They're here," Zoe whispered. Emerging from behind a parked SUV, like shadows waiting for their cue, came Logan, Brad, and Chase. There was no pretense this time, no hallway smirks or locker-side sarcasm. They moved with intent, boxing the girls in, with precise cruelty, as if they'd rehearsed this ambush like a play. "Look who's working overtime!" Logan grinned, blocking their path with his varsity shoulders. "Just in time for the main event." Zoe's hand hovered near her phone. "We don't want any trouble." "Too late," Brad muttered, cracking his knuckles. Then, without warning, Logan stepped behind Maya, grabbed the handles of her wheelchair, and yanked it backward hard. Maya's body jolted. Before she could react, he grabbed her arm and pulled her forward, tossing her to the pavement like discarded luggage. Her back hit the asphalt with a thud that knocked the breath from her lungs. Pain surged through her hip and shoulder. Her face burned with embarrassment. Worse, helplessness. Logan didn't stop. He laughed as he sat in her chair and began spinning in wide circles across the lot. "Man, this is comfy. I could get used to this." Brad and Chase cheered him on like groupies. "Look at me!" Logan shouted. "Wheelie King!" Zoe screamed. "Stop it! That's not yours!" Brad blocked her. "Back off, princess." Students lingering in the lot did nothing. Some watched, others filmed. One even laughed. Maya lay frozen. Her fingers scraped and bloodied as the chair she depended on became a toy for mockery. Then came the breaking point. "Maybe we should leave it across the lot." Logan chuckled, jerking the wheels into a spin. "She can crawl to it. I mean, she's recovering, right?" Maya's chest heaved not from pain, but from something deeper, something sharper. Rage, old and new, welling up in her throat. She thought of the nights with her father in the garage. The hours of muscle burn, the bruises, the sweat, the words she whispered to herself in the mirror. You are not a victim. Not anymore. Slowly, with deliberate control, Maya pressed her palms to the pavement. Grit stuck to her skin. Her shoulder throbbed, but she pushed up. First to a sit. Then her feet slid beneath her. Her legs trembled. Her core burned. And then she stood. All three boys froze. "What the hell?" Chase murmured. "You've been faking it!" Logan spat, his voice cracking. Maya didn't flinch. She took a step, then another. Her movements were careful, yes, but undeniably strong. "I haven't been faking," she said, her voice low and steady. "I've been preparing." She held out her hand. "Give me my chair." Logan's face contorted. "You don't deserve it. You lied." "Last chance," Maya warned. He laughed, but not with confidence. It was the sound of someone losing ground, or what? She didn't answer. Didn't need to. Because in that moment, standing tall, scraped and bruised but unshaken, Maya wasn't just reclaiming her mobility. She was reclaiming her power. And Logan, he was about to learn that when you push someone to the edge, you should be very afraid of what they do once they stand up. Logan's eyes narrowed as Maya stood tall before him, her arm outstretched, palm open, demanding her wheelchair back, but his ego wouldn't let him back down. The sight of her rising, injured defiant didn't inspire remorse. It enraged him. To him, this was humiliation. And Logan Price wasn't the kind of boy who took humiliation quietly. "You want it," he growled, suddenly shoving the wheelchair with a sneer. "Go get it." The chair rattled as it rolled down the slope of the parking lot, crashing softly into a curb 20 feet away. Then he made his biggest mistake. He lunged. His hand shot forward, aiming for her arm again. Maybe to push her, maybe to grab her, maybe just to prove he could still overpower her. But this time, Maya was ready. She shifted her weight instinctively, sidestepping his momentum with the kind of grace only martial arts training could teach. In one seamless motion, she caught his wrist, pivoted on the ball of her foot, and twisted. Logan stumbled forward off balance, gasping as his own weight betrayed him. He hit the ground hard, the sound of his body thudding against asphalt, silencing even Brad and Chase. "What the hell was that?" Brad muttered. But Maya didn't stop. As Logan scrambled to get up, Tyler made his move, charging her from the side like a linebacker going for a tackle. He wasn't used to people fighting back, especially not girls, and especially not ones who'd been in wheelchairs. But his arrogance blinded him. Maya ducked low and swept his legs with a precision so clean he barely had time to realize he was airborne before he hit the pavement next to Logan. Chase hesitated. "Maybe we should—" "No!" Logan shouted from the ground, rage fueling him more than reason. "Get her!" Chase obeyed, charging in with wild fists. But Maya remained calm, centered. She blocked the first swing with her forearm, then stepped inside his reach and planted a firm palm strike to his sternum. It wasn't theatrical. It wasn't flashy. But it knocked the wind clean out of him. He staggered backward, arms flailing, and crumpled to the pavement. By now, several students had abandoned their cars. Phones were recording. Windows were down. And what had begun as a setup to humiliate a disabled girl had become something entirely different. A masterclass in control, balance, and dignity. Maya stood alone in the center of the parking lot, bruised, breathing heavily, but absolutely undefeated. Logan, wheezing and enraged, got to his feet once more. Blood dripped from his nose. His shirt was torn, and still his pride wouldn't let him quit. "You think this changes anything?" he spat. "You think anyone's gonna take your side? You're just a—" "Don't," Maya interrupted, her voice a blade. "Don't say it. You've already shown the world who you are." She turned to walk toward her wheelchair, limping slightly but moving with certainty. That's when Ms. Rodriguez's voice cut through the stunned silence like a siren. "What on earth is going on out here?" She strode across the lot, eyes scanning the scene. 3 varsity athletes sprawled on the ground, one girl standing tall, another recording with a phone. Her gaze locked on Maya. "Miss Thompson, are you all right?" "I am now," Maya answered quietly. Rodriguez took in the scene, the bruises, the chaos, the truth beginning to dawn across her face. She turned to Zoe. "Please tell me you got that on video." Zoe held up her phone. Every second. Logan staggered upright, lips split, voice trembling. "She attacked us!" Ms. Rodriguez didn't flinch. From where Im's standing, it looks like self-defense. And with that, the tide turned. What started as a trap meant to shame Maya became a reckoning. She had not only stood up for herself, she'd shattered the myth that vulnerability meant weakness. Her fight wasn't just physical. It was symbolic. A quiet girl in a chair had faced down her tormentors and emerged not only unbroken, but victorious. And the whole school had just witnessed it. The fluorescent lights in the front office buzzed quietly as Ms. Rodriguez marched through the glass doors, her hand gripping the radio on her hip, and her expression carved from stone. Behind her trailed a surreal procession. Maya Thompson, upright and dignified, despite the grime on her clothes and the pain in her hip. Zoe Miller, holding her phone with both fury and purpose, and 3 battered boys who looked like their egos had taken the worst beating of all. Principal Hayes hadn't yet arrived, but Vice Principal Reynolds, a portly man with a permanent look of mild inconvenience, emerged from his office with a deep sigh, adjusting his tie, like someone already regretting being involved. "What's going on now?" he asked, eyes narrowing as he spotted Logan, Brad, and Chase nursing scrapes and bruises. Before anyone could answer, Ms. Rodriguez cut in. There was an assault in the student parking lot. 3 students cornered Maya after debate club. They pulled her from her wheelchair again and turned the attack into a public show. But this time she added, turning slightly to nod at Zoe, "We got it all on video." Reynolds' brow creased. "Assault. Come on, Maria. You know how teenagers exaggerate. I watched it happen," Rodriguez snapped. "And I watched Maya defend herself with restraint most adults couldn't manage." Reynolds opened his mouth, likely to issue another excuse, but Maya spoke first, her voice low but unwavering. "You told me before that what they were doing was typical teenage behavior. You said I was overreacting when they took my chair. So tell me now, if I'd laid there bruised and silent, would you have cared?" Zoe stepped forward, her phone, now playing the video at full volume. The grainy footage filled the office with the sound of laughter, jeers, and the screech of rubber wheels across pavement. Then came the moment. Logan yanking Maya from her chair, Maya hitting the ground with a thud that echoed even through the speaker. Reynolds flinched. Several staff members had gathered now, custodians on break front desk aides who had paused their typing. Even the nurse stepping out from the hallway, drawn by the tension. No one made a sound. "This is unacceptable," Ms. Rodriguez declared. "It's been going on for months. You were told. She was ignored. And now it's gone too far." Reynolds cleared his throat. "Well, yes, this is concerning, but let's be fair. Maya did strike the other students. You can't expect there not to be consequences on both sides." Maya's fingers curled slightly at her sides, but it was Zoe who spoke next. Her voice trembling not with fear, but with the fury of someone tired of being polite. She defended herself. After being physically attacked, after being humiliated, shoved, laughed at, and dragged from her wheelchair. "And you're worried about fairness." Reynolds looked cornered, sweat rising above his collar. "There are procedures we have to follow." No, came a firm voice from the doorway. It was Principal Hayes, tall, silver-haired, and clearly furious. He walked in with purposeful strides, having just finished reviewing the video sent by Ms. Rodriguez on his phone. No more procedures, no more excuses. He turned to Maya. "Miss Thompson, on behalf of this school, I am deeply sorry. We failed you. This is not a place where students should feel unsafe or dismissed." Then to the boys, now suddenly pale. "You 3 are suspended pending investigation. Effective immediately. And yes, there will be police involvement." What Logan barked, blood still caking his lip. "She hit us." Hayes didn't even look at him. "And you pulled her from her wheelchair, mocked her disability, and created an environment so hostile it went viral in less than an hour. I've already received 2 emails from district parents and 1 from a news affiliate. Reynolds tried again. But we've got a big game Friday. Logan is— This school does not revolve around athletics. Hayes cut in. And from this moment forward, it will no longer revolve around protecting bullies. Silence fell again. Only the low hum of Zoe's phone remained, playing the final clip. Maya rising to her feet, defiant, her voice clear. I think this changes everything, and she was right. Because by the time the last word was spoken, by the time Maya reclaimed her seat in that chair, not out of need, but choice, everyone in that office knew. Cedar Ridge had just met the girl who would change the system. In the days that followed, the atmosphere at Cedar Ridge shifted like a tide turning after a long, uneasy calm. Students who once laughed along with Logan's cruel jokes now crossed the hallway to avoid him. Teachers started watching more closely. Hall monitors became alert not just to noise or wandering students, but to the subtle choreography of cruelty that Maya Thompson had endured in silence for months. The video of the parking lot confrontation spread like Uboma wildfire, shared, reposted, dissected. Not for the fight itself, but for what it represented: a disabled black girl standing up literally and figuratively against the system that had failed her. Zoe stood by her side every day, still fielding messages from students across the country. Maya became more than a peer. She was a symbol. Her silence had been powerful, but her resistance was unstoppable. And yet Maya didn't seek praise. She still used her wheelchair when needed, not because she had to, but because she chose to. It no longer defined her. She did. At home, her father Michael and mother Janine watched her with a mix of awe and pride. Marcus, usually stoic, now smiled more easily. He trained with her not just as a therapist or father, but as a man who had passed his resilience into the next generation. You didn't just defend yourself, he told her one night after a workout. You defended every kid who thought they had no voice. Even Principal Hayes took action. Vice Principal Reynolds was placed on administrative leave. Ms. Rodriguez was promoted, and her first act as new vice principal was launching a student-led advocacy council with Maya as founding chair. You taught this school that silence doesn't equal weakness, she said. You reminded us what courage really looks like. Sometimes the most powerful kind of strength isn't in how loudly you speak, but in how long you stand firm in silence, waiting for the right moment to rise. Maya's story teaches us that resilience isn't about enduring pain quietly. It's about transforming it into action. In a world that often overlooks quiet suffering, the act of rising, physically, emotionally, morally, can rewrite the rules. If this story moved you, leave a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. What does strength mean to you? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story with someone who needs a reminder you don't have to stay a victim. You can become the hero.